So I liken it to the swan effect. Underneath the water, there's just these two little legs going, and that's me internally. It's not a panic, but it's a case of people are looking to you to make a decision. And in the moment, on the pitch, in my day job, people look to you, and whether they look to you for guidance, whether they look to you for that instant snap decision, it's those things that we have to be ready for. So externally, what I aim to do is be a little bit more graceful. Just take a moment, take that condom moment, as I mentioned before. The utilization of a smile can sometimes, and I say that with a bit of jest in that I'm not known for my naturally smiley face, but it's something I'm looking to bring to my game, is that it gives the illusion that you've got everything under control, even if you don't.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Trauma, Training and Transformation, the podcast where we explore movement, service and structured challenge shape who we become. Today's conversation is about composure. It's also about leadership when decisions must be made quickly, clearly and under scrutiny. It's about the authority, not the dominance, but it's also presence. My guest today, Becky Piddlesden, operates in two environments where pressure is not optimal: the military, the rugby pitch as a match official. Both demand clarity, discipline, emotional control, and the ability to stand in the centre of noise without becoming part of it. Becky, welcome to the podcast. And for the benefit of our listeners, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Becky Piddlesden, or known as Pids to my friends and colleagues. I am a Royal Air Force Provost Officer and also an England Rugby National League match official.
Thank you very much. So, you're in the RAF. The services themselves are constantly under pressure. Granted, tours have come down a little bit following Afghanistan, but with the pressures of Ukraine going on in the background, you don't have to go out there, but the pressures underlying from military people are still immense, really. So before the uniform, before the whistle, what first drew you towards service and responsibility?
Yeah, good question. So I come from a semi-military background. My mum has worked at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, and previously to that, do have family in the military. So there was always a bit of a tie. It was something I'd considered, and for me, I really enjoy the aspect of service. I think it's really close to my heart, and I respect anyone who's willing to put their brain and body on the line for something that is important to them. So yeah, I didn't join up automatically. It was an endeavour from university, and the plan didn't quite go as I'd wished. But yeah, we got there in the end, and yeah, I found myself here today.
So you look at that position of pressure, that upbringing, having someone who's associated to the military. Was you always comfortable stepping into leadership, or is something that was nurtured over time? Or you were just thrown in at the deep end?
I mean, there's real benefit in doing both. I think sometimes people can, when you've got a lot of pressure, people can really shine. It's that whole, the analogy of a diamond under pressure, the cream comes to the top as such. But I don't think I'm a natural leader. I think it's definitely something that has been nurtured, and I credit those my family and friends who have given me the support to pursue these opportunities within the military and otherwise. But no, I think elements of our training do really bring out some of those features. In addition to being a sporty individual, I grew up playing rugby and pursuing other sporting activities, and I think the sporting environment itself does bring you some of those characteristics that come to the forefront in daily life and officiating.
It's interesting how early experiences shape our comfort and with responsibility. I mean, in psychology, we often talk about identity forming around competence and contribution. It feels like service has also been a thread for you from family into serving yourself. You operate in two spaces where authority matters deeply, not just to yourself, but the job and association that you're in. How does those identities intersect?
Hugely. I think the two, when you actually think back and reflect, there is so much overlap. And I think that comes in the form of communication, how I communicate with my friends and family, albeit it might not be as direct as sometimes I need to be at work. But I think the idea of creating a team around yourself, being part of a team, and that doesn't just mean in a sporting setting, that could mean family, friends, the support network that you create, I think does have a real overlap to hopefully the professional relationships that I foster within my day job and in the wider service area. But equally, I think the mutual respect that you have for each other, I have a slight frustration with when people say respect is earned. I think there's always a base level of respect when you walk into a room with anyone. And I think those relationships can then be fostered to improve the level of trust, respect that you have for people. So I think in both settings, they can definitely pay dividends to laying the foundations for really positive working environments and relationships in life, really.
Of course, and you operate in both sides, the military and rugby. Do you feel there's different versions of yourself in each environment?
I'd like to say no, but I think there is. I sometimes have to be reminded when I come home and my friends are like, "You're not on the rugby pitch now," or "You're not at work now." So I think there's still a lot of learning to do with regards to how I differentiate those two personalities. But I think what I've learned is to try and be authentic as possible. I think the world today, with the increased pressure of social media and the perfectionist element that I think we as humans, I say we think, I believe that some of my social circle wish to become is actually not necessarily as authentic as we want to be. And particularly with my refereeing journey so far, is that I tried so hard to be someone I wasn't. And that was both character and in my officiating style. I saw what I thought I wanted to be on the screen, or I was watching peers and colleagues. And I thought, well, that looks good. I'll try that. Actually, it didn't work for me. Embracing that has led to a breakthrough's probably too self-inflating, but some real progress, I think, in my character, and knowing that I can go into a room and I can lead a team of three, but I can also be a member of a team of three, four, five, six, whatever it is, in the officiating sphere. And I think that does overlap to the day job in that if I want to be successful in management and leadership, I need to be who I am, because it is absolutely exhausting being someone you're not. And that will only have implications into your actual output. So that's the biggest lesson I've taken. And I'm hoping that I can embed that throughout.
I'm very fortunate to work with you as one of your ARs in the game. And what was very telling to me is how much compassion and empathy you have for the people around you,
Mhm.
whilst at the same time having that steeliness about yourself to make a decision when it needs to be done. And I think that's a credit to you. I think you contribute to rugby in a very positive way. And I think that's part of your individual personality coming out rather than it just being something taught to you, if that makes sense. But in the two environments that you're in, how was officiating sharpening your military leadership, or is it vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the compliment. And as I say, it was a real pleasure to work with you as well. I think that's the beauty of what we do, and that we can work with so many different people in a diverse environment, in a challenging environment. So yeah, it was a pleasure to diversify that. And I know it was your first game as well, so it was a pleasure to be a part of that. Going back to the initial question then, do you know what? I haven't really thought about it as much as I probably could have done, or have before. I think the diversification of how I can bring that to the fore, and it's taking that what we call condor moment potentially in the military. So taking that time to actually synthesize information and not react. And I think that's something that I did early on in my officiating career. I maybe brought too much emotion into the game, and and I now turn my ear off to the little comment behind my back. Do I have to react to everything? And equally, storyboarding is something that we talk about a lot in refereeing. It's how can we create the story for the wider community? So we think of the pitch as a theatre, and how can we sell our decisions that aren't rabbits out of hats? They aren't things that people don't expect. And I think that translates into my day job as well, in that we're not looking to change decisions immediately. But what we can do is storyboard why we might want to change decisions, or how we might influence other people to make decisions for the greater good, for the strategic impact, all of that good stuff. But actually, if we don't lay the foundations within our story, we have no book. And I think that's what we're trying to do now, is just create the chapters.
Yeah, very much so. And in the military, it's all about evolution of thought and practice through constant training and building that battle picture up so they can be best informed to when it comes to the real thing. Rugby's no different, really. You know, each game is another learning moment for you in the sense of your emotional literacy increases, your level of empathy for the game, speed of thought, decision making. And obviously, being in the military, it surely must help with your refereeing because of those pressures in the job.
Yeah, I think it's a unique opportunity to be challenged in certain ways that maybe other professions and trades don't have. And that's outside of the military as well. I think we, as the Royal Air Force and as defence, have the requirement to react to any moment. And that is ensuring that, one, we are prepared for any moment, but also we are aware of our surroundings. And I think there is ever greater pressures on us to perform and step up and do what our service requires us to do. So I think having that active mind to be ready, and to react when we need to is something that we naturally embed in most of the stuff that we do day to day. And it's not necessarily something that I know other areas are gifted in. And I think that prepares us more than ever onto the rugby pitch, in that environments will crop up. How do we react? How does our judge of character show? How do we hold ourselves account to our morals and foundations that we build upon? And I think they are key elements that do overlap within the two areas of my careers.
Thank you for sharing that. So when pressure arises, whether you're in uniform or in a tense game, what's happening internally for you? What allows you to stay composed when making decisions?
Yeah, so I liken it to the swan effect. Underneath the water, there's just these two little legs going, and that's me internally. It's not a panic, but it's a case of people are looking to you to make a decision. And in the moment, on the pitch, in my day job, people look to you, and whether they look to you for guidance, whether they look to you for that instant snap decision, it's those things that we have to be ready for. So externally, what I aim to do is be a little bit more graceful. Just take a moment, take that condom moment, as I mentioned before. The utilization of a smile can sometimes, and I say that with a bit of jest, in that I'm not known for my naturally smiley face, but it is something I'm looking to bring to my game, is that it gives the illusion that you've got everything under control, even if you don't. And sometimes our own emotions in any environment can actually inflate or deflate that scenario. So where we can be as neutral as possible, and also show that empathy that we've noted before, in that, yeah, I hear your point. I understand what you're saying, and taking the time to listen to people can sometimes buy you a lot more time than you think. So that swan effect, that graceful on top of the water, might not necessarily be what's under, but we want to show that picture quite vividly.
The picture paints 1,000 words for many things, really. But if you look back to those big pressure moments, what do you do, or what would you advise others to do? Do you do some self-talk? Do some breath work pre-game? Is it those repeated measures so then you're used to seeing those pictures, so you're able to give calm decisions? Do all those matter?
Yeah, definitely. I think a previous RFU educator told me, like, get yourself touch points. So where in the game can you bring yourself down to the ground? If you've had, and they always say, be the calm in the chaos, let the game happen around you sometimes, because that's what the game needs. It's having the times where every scrum I'll take a big deep breath before we start our cadence, and it's a reset. Every time that we have a breakdown in play, it's an opportunity to start again. And the pictures that we see across the pitch every single week are exactly the same occurrences. They're just different people in different places in different colors. So we think of it as, I always think of it when I deliver the RFU, the courses, the error courses that we deliver. It's a case of, they're just snapshots on a camera. You're seeing the same thing every week. So you'll get used to the patterns and the common decisions that you make. And it's similar to your day job. There will be constant occurrences that happen again and again. And it's just different environments, and how we synthesize that information is really important, but also having those touch points. So I know that at every kickoff, I'll always take a deep breath, put my shoulders back, and we go again. That's my way to reset. And essentially we just start the card again, and we go for the next however long that phase of play is.
Both the military and rugby demand decisions that are publicly judged, right? Snapshots in time, and you have the public looking upon you to make the right decisions, right calls. How do you build trust in your judgment when you know criticism is inevitable?
Yeah, you're right. Criticism is inevitable. And I think particularly when they are so public, when it is just us three out in the middle and 30/50 people potentially's opinions going on you, I think it's going with, and we link back to the storyboarding, going with what's credible, but also showing a bit of humility in that too. So we're all going to make poor decisions. It happens. We are only human. And if we didn't make poor decisions, or the wrong decision sometimes, we'd probably be robots. So I think it's showing that humility, in that if you get something wrong, you know what, I've got it wrong, but this is what we're going with now. And as long as they're not regular, and as long as they're not trend worthy, shall we say, I truly believe that people do recognize we're humans. Don't get me wrong, we have the responsibility, and we're put in those scenarios, both day job and on the pitch, to make those decisions, and we're empowered to make them. But I just think it's learning to live in that chaos comes with making mistakes. And it's having that growth mindset to say, you know what, I got it wrong this week, and admitting to that, you know, but also then taking that learning experience forward. I've had times whereby I have called potentially a mall collapsed by the attacking team, not defensive. It's not followable. If we're going towards the line, I haven't given a penalty try. You know what? I probably got it wrong that week. But the next week and the week after that, I'm growing on that. I'm analysing my own ability to respond to those environments and saying, actually, is that the right decision?
Touched a little bit about review and reflection. How do you review your own performances, be it a rugby game or an operational task?
Yeah, so I mean, professionally, we have our own feedback loops. So we have our wrap up meetings, we have our decision making matrix that we have to follow. And if we don't follow them, then we're under scrutiny as to why we haven't followed them. And I always go back to a previous boss said to me, I want you to empower you to make decisions as long as you can justify them. And I think that's what I've taken into lots of other things. As long as I've got a process and as long as I've backed it up and it's not just me winging it for the sake of winging it, because I think this is a great idea, I believe you can always be empowered to make decisions. Out of the office or on the pitch. We do our game analysis pre-game, but also post-games. It's going through looking at our big five, so space, peace, safety, and then anything else that falls out of that. It's being honest with yourself and holding yourself to account, but also sharing that experience too. There's a lot within our peer group that we'll share a clip and say, what would you do here? And ask people's opinion. And I think it's that whole bringing people on board with you, taking them on the journey, because no one gets to the top alone. And that Everest or that top could be, I want to get to a national league. That could be going to, I don't know, some people's Everest is Six Nations World Cup. You know, like there are greater people with bigger Everests, but your Everest that month, that year, your target, whatever it is, has to come with some honest reflection. And I think it's just recognizing that and taking the time to reflect. Humans innately, we're busy. And we like to keep busy. I know I do. And there's a 3, 6, and 9 month period in the year whereby we stop and we go at work. Right, what have we done this quarter? What have we done this month, in fact? And it's reflecting on those, taking the bite-sized chunks that end up resulting in the big wins.
Very much on the military side, we'll hold you accountable based on, your assessments and your ability to achieve certain goals within the year. But in personal situations, be it rugby or in your life, what does accountability actually mean to you?
Good question. What does accountability mean? I think for me, it's being true to yourself and knowing your moral compass and knowing what you stand for. Honesty is a big one for me, in that, have I actually prepared myself as well as I could do for this tasking? Have I done all my pre-reading for this meeting? Have I updated my OneNote? And if I know that I've not prepared well, then I can't expect a good performance. In addition to that, it's controlling the controllables and recognizing that there are many external factors that sometimes we just have to absolutely throw it in that bin and say, I couldn't have controlled that. But what I have done is I've prepared myself well enough and given myself the best account to others to show what I can do. So yeah, for me, it massively comes down to your moral compass, and it goes back to that authentic nature of being yourself.
Something very powerful about accepting that leadership's not always universal approval, especially when you're on the field on your own. It's about integrity and decision making, especially when you've got big decisions to make on the game that can go the balance of win or lose sometimes. But being a female match official and being a female in military, which is, both really historically male dominated environments, how have you navigated leadership while remaining authentic?
Yeah, I think the female in the military ones, there are significant female leaders that have gone before and they've paved the way. And that translates into the rugby field too, in that we have some highly talented female match officials that have absolutely trailblazed for us to even have a space at the table. And so all I can do is outwardly thank people that have done that, and that goes for people off pitch too, in that they've supported them, they have provided them with the feedback to improve and then to be competitive in a male dominated environment. And so I think that's really important to credit that both in defence and in rugby officiating. I think it's now looking around the room and saying, yeah, you know what? There are proportionally more males than females in this room, but we all have the same passion. We all have the same decision-making ability if we train it well, and actually seeing beyond the gender and just seeing someone for being who they are. And if they're good enough to be there, then they deserve a place at that seat at the table. So for me, I'm really excited about where both females in defence are going and also the growth of female officiating. It's so nice to be able to go. So this week I was at Hartbury College and I knew that there were 2 games. There's one happening at Hartbury and one at another university. And it was for the Bucks League. So it's all the universities that are coming through. So all females that are pursuing a career in sport, whatever it is. And we saw female coaches, or we saw female physios. But knowing that there were 3 female match officials on that team, both sides of the coin, so at both universities, was just the biggest step ever. This week we saw the first team of 6 for the women's premiership. So we've had a New Zealand referee come over from her home country to officiate. You know, there are women everywhere. And it's continuing to grow. So I'm so excited to see where it's going to go in the future.
And that's huge, really. In one of my roles in Nova Scotia as the president of the Referee Society, I got the female side of refereeing increased. One, because we had the right personalities and characters around. But for the first time in Nova Scotia, we had a full team of 4 female match officials, which is quite unique for Canada because it's still growing.
Yeah.
But what I saw with that is female refereeing, the growth is huge at the moment, and we hope that continues. But what I would have to say is, and I do appreciate your comments, do you feel there's an added pressure on you because you're the next person pushing, going forward in that I position and role?
Yeah, I think we have an element of self pressure, right? That we place on ourselves. I think there's still a pressure to when you go in the clubhouse and you still do get comments. You get, oh, it's a female referee, or my favorite one is ladies. Oh, it's a lady referee. No, it's not. Let's get used to that terminology, and that you wouldn't call them gentlemen playing. And if you do, then that's so be it. But most people call them men, so then we're women. And so I think I yes, there is a pressure to perform, but it's the pressure for those around us, above us, below us, to our sides. You know, we want to do everyone proud, but also we just want to do the best job that we can. So yeah, and in the workspace, you know, I don't see it as much within my current role, nor did I do in my last role. But I know that it is still a challenge within some environments within the military, in that it's always been done by a man, so we're going to keep it that way. Well, actually, no, if you've got someone who's able to do it, then let them, regardless of gender.
I think that I know the answer to the next one, but I have to ask, has your compassion and your composure ever been mistaken for softness?
I don't think I've ever been described as soft within my personality. I won't want to, I don't want to swear on this, but my resting face has sometimes actually done me well, in that I don't get easily swayed. That being said, it doesn't always work in your favor, but I can't say I've ever been described as soft, but I know some of my peers have, and it's been seen as a potential weakness, both in the office and on the rugby pitch. So yeah, I do think that is a common characteristic that could be swayed within the female cadre. Where does it go? Do you know what? I really, really decompress by listening to podcasts on music. So it can sometimes be me just playing my favorite songs. And so I really like drum and bass music. So it's not quite the tempo decline that maybe we want, but that's my way to decompress. But also a little bit odd, because sometimes I can drive to games in silence and just be with my thoughts and just think, right, what are my phases? What can I control today? So yeah, when it gets really pressured, for me, it's silence. It's enjoying a nice coffee by the sea and just being in my own environment, really.
Do you use any kind of movement, any physical action as part of that regulation and decompression?
Yeah, I mean, pre-game, to try and get myself ready, I sometimes do visualize certain elements of what I want to try and achieve. So things like my positioning in field, my officiating, but also in terms of mental robustness. Often, if I'm going into a meeting and I want to be as prepared I can, or I might even come out and go, well, that didn't quite go to plan. I'm going to do a hot debrief now, so I can then leave it and park it for an hour and come back, go and get a coffee, and then reflect when the emotion is slightly less or decreased, and which I think is a really important part. And that's something that I consider myself to have grown into. I used to come out of meetings or come off of games and be really, really harsh to myself. But actually, with the games that are increasing in pressure, you just can't do that because you hold on to too much. And I think, again, as humans, we want to hold on to everything and bring it to our core. But sometimes you just got to throw a bit away and just say, I'll come back to that in a bit.
During those downtimes, driving home from a game or finishing work in your room on your own, you tend to ruminate about what's gone on. And like you said, you're thinking about a decision you made in the game and so on. But it's also important, as going through that reflection, you go through a time of reward, looking at things that you did well. How do you manage that expectation?
Yeah, I think praise is so tough, isn't it? We don't do it very well as a cohort. I think when you go into analysis sessions and you sit down with your peers, you're like, right, what didn't I do well? And it's always the first thing where you hone into. I know I do anyway, and it's a really poor thing. But I was actually just reflecting with my coach on that call, and it was saying, like, my performance this weekend, I was able to evidence how much of how I've progressed, say in the past season with being exposed to more National League stuff. And it was a case of, you know what, 6 months ago, I wouldn't have performed like that. I would have gone in, made rash decisions. I possibly would have got lost in the chaos or tried to over officiate. And we just sat back on my call just now and said, yeah, actually, there has been a bit of progress. But we've got a rule now in my day job with my peers. We have a junior officer's tea and toast, and we just go around the room and we go, actually, what have we done this month that's been good? And even if it's just one thing, and it could be, I once had a peer said, oh, I replied to an email within a week. And you know what? For him, that was his Everest. That was his really good thing. It all looks different for us all. But I think even if you can just take a bite-sized chunk of what you do and say, yeah, this is good, then you've got to do yourself a service. We do it for the love of it, right? We're not professionals yet. Yes, I get paid for my day job, but yeah, it doesn't come naturally.
A tea and toast or nappy break has always been the highlight of the day for any service person, no matter where they're at.
Yeah, definitely.
Both of your roles, your leadership roles, are a form of service, either to the game or to the country. So what does service really mean to you now?
Service means, I think I've got this, but it just means doing your best, doing what's right in the moment and doing it to the best of your ability, regardless of your environment, is what you can offer. And for me, it comes back to why you're here, what was your motivation to be here? And if that is still the same reason that you were existing in that environment, then you're doing well. It's the minute it starts to change or the minute you start to have less respect for a certain environment that I think you've then got to capture it and say, actually, am I here for the right reasons? But until that day, you just got to do everything to the best of your ability.
Your roles form leadership, but also strength. So we look back of your time, both in the game and in service. What do you believe strength is, and how would you define that?
Strength. I mean, getting a PB back spot will be good physically, right? But no, I think being able to perform under pressure, I think is the best inner strength that you can demonstrate. And that's not to say it has to be a perfect performance, but having the confidence and the courageousness to actually step up and do what you think is right in that moment based with positive judgment and a process is, for me, the strength that anyone can provide. We can always reflect. We can always look back and say, you know what, I would have done that differently. But the fact that you've had the courage to give it a go is a heads and shoulders above many people.
Thank you. You're an incredible individual. I'm very, very fortunate to work with you in rugby. Being in the military takes not just leadership, but also courage, determination, and grit. If you got the opportunity to either speak to the young Pids or a young woman stepping into a leadership role, being in a high-pressure environment, be the military or rugby, what would you say to them now?
Oh, if I had to go back, do you know what I would say? I'd say just keep enjoying it, because we put ourselves under so much pressure. And I think it's that whole cliche of trust in the process. If you commit 110% to everything that you do, and that 100% might look weak some days and it might look strong the other, but if you're willing to put that work in, things will happen and things will improve. Just keep enjoying it, because if it's not for the love, then why otherwise would we do it?
Thank you very much. Also, if you had the opportunity to distill one lesson to a fellow colleague, be it a referee or service person, what's one lesson you would help them or support them with about leading under fire?
Know your people. You're nothing without the people around you. And if you don't know the people, then when the pressure comes on, everything falls to bits. Knowing how people fire, knowing what motivates them, knowing it's small things like knowing what day is important to them in the calendar year, and recognizing how they might react in different scenarios, I think is the power in which, when you lead people, you lead from the front, yes, but also you know that they've got your back and you've got theirs. So collaborative thinking along that way.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Becky, it's been an honor and a privilege to have you on the episode today, and it's great to share this space with you, but also I look forward to seeing you on the rugby field very shortly. It's not about silence, it's about steadfastness. It's about steadiness. It's about preparation, meeting pressure. It's also about knowing who you are when noise surrounds you. Becky, thank you for sharing your insights and your experience today. If this conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who leads under pressure in sport, in service, or in life, or someone that you believe will need to hear it. You can watch the full episode on YouTube at James Alder 003. You can find this podcast on all podcast services, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon, or wherever you find your podcast. If you also would like to share in helpful guide and advice on using movement to heal the mind, you can follow my Substack, All the details are in the description box below. Until next time, stay ready, keep moving, and lead well, but more importantly, be kind to yourself. Thank you very much. See you on the next one.